In the summer of 1944, deep in the farmlands of northern France, an American tank division was preparing for battle. Engines thundered across the fields. Orders barked through radios. Rows of tanks lined the hedgerows, pointing east toward the German lines. But if you got closer, you'd realize something was very wrong. The tanks were made of rubber. The radio traffic was fake. And the soldiers, they were artists, armed not with rifles, but with paintbrushes, speakers, and imagination. This wasn't a conventional army. It was an illusion, a living, breathing performance designed to fool Hitler's war machine. This was the Ghost Army, the strangest, most creative unit to ever fight in World War II. By 1944, the Allies were winning the war in Europe. After the D-Day landings, Allied forces had broken through Normandy and were advancing toward Germany. But the front was massive, stretching hundreds of miles, and the Germans were watching every inch of it. Reconnaissance planes circled above. Radio intercepts buzzed with stolen conversations. Every tank, every truck, every formation risked giving away the Allies' next move. Commanders knew that one miscalculation could lead to disaster, a counterattack, an ambush, 1,000 lives lost. And so, a radical idea began to take shape. If the Germans were watching, what if the Allies gave them something to see? Military deception had already proven its worth. Just months earlier, Operation Fortitude, the elaborate ruse before D-Day, had tricked Hitler into believing the invasion would come at Calais, not Normandy. It used fake radio traffic, inflatable landing craft, and even a phantom army led by General George S. Patton himself. The deception worked so well that the Germans held entire divisions in the wrong place for weeks. Inspired by that success, U.S. commanders decided to create a permanent deception unit, one that could move with the front, set up fake armies, and vanish again before the enemy knew what happened. It would be an army built to lie. And so, in January 1944, the U.S. Army formed the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, better known as the Ghost Army. From the start, it was clear this would be no ordinary military outfit. The Army recruited painters, sculptors, architects, set designers, and sound engineers. Among them was Bill Blass, who would one day become a world-famous fashion designer, and Ellsworth Kelly, who would rise to prominence as one of the great American abstract artists. But in 1944, they were just young men with pencils and courage, told to fight a war using illusion. Their mission was simple to describe and impossibly complex to execute. With just 1,100 men, the Ghost Army had to simulate the presence of entire divisions, up to 30,000 soldiers, complete with tanks, trucks, artillery, and support units. They divided themselves into 4 groups. The 603rd Camouflage Engineers handled the visuals, building and arranging the fake equipment. The 31-2nd Signal Service Company managed sound deception. The Signal Company Special faked radio transmissions, and the Headquarters Company coordinated the whole act. Each operation was a stage play, meticulously designed to convince enemy intelligence that real armies were on the move. Their main tools of deception were extraordinary. The inflatable tanks were masterpieces of military design. Made from rubberized canvas, each full-size Sherman tank could be inflated in about 20 minutes using a small compressor. They were light enough for 4 men to carry, yet realistic enough to fool German reconnaissance pilots flying overhead. From the air, the details were perfect. Shadows, reflections, even the dirt stains painted by hand. Entire armored divisions could appear overnight where none existed the day before. But illusion doesn't stop with the eyes. The Ghost Army also had to fool the ears. Their sound engineers recorded authentic noises of battle, the rumble of engines, the clatter of treads, the distant thunder of artillery. Mounted on half-tracks, enormous loudspeakers could project these sounds for miles. They could simulate the movement of an entire army column by carefully layering sound effects. If the Germans heard tanks approaching, they did believe them. even if the only thing on the ground was a speaker truck and an empty field. Radio deception added yet another layer. German intelligence carefully tracked radio signals to locate Allied divisions, so Ghost Army radio operators learned to mimic real units, copying the rhythm and style of genuine operators. Each radio man had a signature rhythm, like a fingerprint. The Ghost Army studied and replicated those quirks perfectly, convincing German code breakers that entire divisions had moved, when in reality, they were just a few soldiers tapping out lies in Morse code. And to complete the illusion, they didn't just fool the senses, they fooled the imagination. Soldiers in the Ghost Army played roles like actors on a stage. They created fake command posts, complete with jeeps, tents, and officers' quarters. They wore the patches and insignias of other divisions. They chatted loudly in local cafes about their upcoming offensive, knowing enemy spies might overhear. Every part of the deception was crafted with precision. The placement of a tank, the angle of a tire track, the distance between tents. One misplaced detail could give everything away. Between 1944 and 1945, the Ghost Army carried out more than 20 deception missions across Europe. From the hedgerows of France to the forests of Luxembourg and the plains of Germany. In one mission near the Seine, they impersonated the 2nd Armored Division to cover a real unit's withdrawal. The Germans took the bait, shelling inflatable tanks while the real troops slipped away under the cover of darkness. In another, near the town of Metz, they used fake bridges, dummy artillery, and decoy convoys to mislead German scouts into thinking an entire corps was preparing to attack. Their work was dangerous. They often operated within artillery range of the front line. If discovered, they were sitting ducks. They carried rifles, but their orders were clear. If you're found out, retreat. Then came their masterpiece, Operation Viersen, March 1945. The Allies were preparing to cross the Rhine River, one of the final barriers before entering Germany. The real crossing would happen under the cover of night. But to make it possible, the Ghost Army would stage a massive fake buildup 20 miles south of the true site. They inflated hundreds of rubber tanks and trucks. They set up artillery positions, fake supply depots, and dummy camps. Their radios buzzed with counterfeit messages. Loudspeakers blasted the rumble of armored divisions. German scouts observed it all and took the bait. Within days, the Germans began shelling the Ghost Army's position, completely distracted by a battle that didn't exist. Meanwhile, real Allied forces crossed the Rhine almost unopposed. Thousands of lives were saved because of art, sound, and illusion. For the soldiers of the Ghost Army, life was surreal. They lived between danger and absurdity, surrounded by rubber tanks and silence, yet always within range of real gunfire. They couldn't shoot back. Their mission was to pretend, not to fight. Many of them dealt with the stress the only way they knew how, by creating. They sketched their surroundings, painted the people they met, documented the odd beauty of their work. Their art survives today. Pencil sketches of fake tanks against real sunsets, watercolor portraits of farmers, charcoal drawings of soldiers inflating a dummy jeep. They were warriors of imagination, fighting the most brutal war in history with nothing but deception. When the war ended, their story was sealed away. For over 40 years, the Ghost Army remained classified. Their records were locked, their missions erased from public history. Most went home quietly, never speaking of what they'd done. Some became famous artists, others teachers, designers, and architects, but all carried a secret, that they had fought not with bullets, but with creativity. When the files were finally declassified in the 1990s, historians were stunned. What had once been a rumor became one of the most extraordinary stories of the war. And in 2022, after decades of silence, the United States Congress finally recognized them, awarding the Ghost Army the Congressional Gold Medal for their extraordinary service. The Ghost Army proved that war can be fought in ways no one expects, That imagination, the ability to create, to trick, to inspire, can be a weapon as powerful as any bomb or bullet. They showed that victory isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about perception. In a world now dominated by digital deception, their story feels prophetic, a warning from the past about the power of illusion. They were artists who went to war, dreamers who saved lives, and ghosts who changed the course of history without ever firing a shot. The Ghost Army, the untold story of World War II's master deception.